Hey everyone. So this video is going to be talking about the South Korean women's movement, escape the corset, some of the repressive patriarchal laws and just cultural things that women are facing in Korea that are making them so outwardly expressive of their anger. I think that I've been inspired by what I've been reading in the news the past few years, but I specifically recently have been in contact with some feminists in South Korea who, some of which are translating some of my videos. So for me, I felt like, it's time to kind of do some more research, and I've just been like really profoundly inspired, and I'm very honored that they think that my videos are worth sharing with women there, because I just see so much more consciousness happening, um, that I think is lacking, I think, with a lot of, at least American feminists. So yeah, um, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about what they're doing, and I want to talk about how women who watch my videos generally can learn from it and what they can take from it, and maybe, things to get women talking about and organizing about. And yeah, in this video, because I've been asked by some women in South Korea, I will talk about kind of what we're doing in the US as radical feminists. I have to say, in no way does our movement compare. I wouldn't even call it a movement, honestly. I always think in terms of movement, but like for me, I've always had to think very internationally because in my experience, real radical feminists are rare. We're rare. Even amongst the radical feminist community, like women who like really are radical are rare. So I think, to see this kind of militancy is important, and it sends a real message about like collective female struggle. So I just am like inspired and that sort of thing. Anyway, some of the things that I want to talk about, are the Me Too movement. We think about it in terms of like how it happened in the US or like Britain, women coming forward, specifically sharing kind of a collective, opening up about the fact that so many of us are sexual assault, rape survivors. This specifically has impacted Korea because it's coming up against some other things that, they are dealing with. South Korea is a very technologically advanced society, way more than the US. They have, far better, like, just access to pornography, recording, this sorts of things. And oftentimes women have found themselves being spy cammed. So what happens is like they'll go to use the restroom and cameras have been placed to record them. And there have been cases, I don't want to say a lot, but there have been a few cases of suicides happening from women's deep shame about ending up on a spy cam porn site against their will. There's not really anything women can do. They have to like pay or something to get fucking off of there. So women have been rising up in severe mass anger about this. And you have to understand, if it's happening there, it's happening here. And this is another reason why all gender restrooms are such a bad idea for women. You have men in the restroom, they're going to be recording and surveilling you, period. Men are fascinated by women's toilet habits, I have to say. It's disturbing, but it's true. Seems to be a global fucking phenomenon. Yeah, and the women aren't the only victims of spy cam pornography, but obviously we're the majority. 80% or over 80% of, victims are women. Wonder why? There's been a real history of just sexism in the culture for the past century. There's also been a history of militancy in like amongst Korean women in terms of feminist activism. In the past, one of the things that was really significant, internationally was the comfort women, the Korean comfort women coming forward. So I want to give a shout out to them and their kind of like movement because they also were very militant and in your face. And I think that's something that they really, I think I see some of the influences of that in this current movement. Definitely. They definitely are drawing on like an intergenerational strength here, which is like powerful. Although I do see like a lot of young women really drawn into this, which is also really inspiring because I think obviously getting women before their lives are completely wrapped up in husbands and babies is important. Getting them to think and create a new life for themselves is super important. There's also like really just disturbing beauty culture in South Korea. Plastic surgery is so common. Women are used to being like openly criticized for their appearances regularly, and they have a very normal culture of just being confrontational about people's appearances generally. So it's not considered inappropriate to ridicule a woman for her appearance. Like it's considered to be totally culturally acceptable. At least, the women are fighting to change that, but this is something that they're contending with, and that's part of what's influencing this movement. The amount of time and energy and expectation on beauty products is astounding as well. They have a massive, just beauty industry like most, industrialized nations do. So that's a problem, but like I I don't know. I just all of that has been the case, and this movement is challenging this stuff, and really, really militantly. There have been videos of feminists who, even beauty women who were previously beauty vloggers. So they were these women who sit on YouTube putting on makeup, doing different looks, you know, have been on camera destroying their makeup. Women get, I saw one video of a woman getting ready and she talks about the difference between how much time she spent on her appearance before and what her routine looks like now, and how much happier she is with her routine now that she wears comfortable clothing, now that she doesn't have to worry about doing makeup and her hair, like she's still like, oh, this is another thing. Like, and I clearly picked the right year to get a bowl cut because like women, a lot of them have bowl cuts. Like they have like a similar hairstyle, and I get it because it's like it's a good look, right? I'm gonna put my hat back on, but like that's been something kind of exciting to see as well, like women just cutting their hair off, that's difficult to get feminists to do here. Um, yeah, and another thing that's being encouraged is like getting women to reject heterosexual relationships. The militancy is off the chain, and some of the cultural confrontational stuff works because women aren't afraid to talk to each other about like advocating for what they believe in. Like there's not that passivity. They're like, why are you doing that when this is better? Like there's a real commitment to solidarity and consciousness raising amongst members of this movement, and it's really powerful to see. And I really love just seeing the destruction of symbols of femininity. It is powerful. That sends a message. This is like what happened in the second wave where women burned bras, right? At like the Miss America protest, right? That became synonymous with feminism culturally. But the significance of that was women were burning symbols of female enslavement and torture and the ways in which our bodies are constrained, and we are eunuched in this culture. So, like, I love seeing the destruction of symbols of femininity. I think it's a really powerful thing to do. Yeah, and the thing is, too, this movement is very interested in international, like, support and working with women globally. One of the big things that I've seen just from women in South Korea, like they've been putting a lot of their messages like at their protests in English. Like they want people in the English speaking world, they want women specifically to see what they're saying because they see that we have a global connected struggle like this. And they also, what was the other thing? I'm looking at my notes. They also like, send messages to like, one of the other things that I saw in some of the protest footage that I witnessed was that they were putting like messages to women saying like, don't come to our country because you will be made into pornography without your consent. Like very blatant, in your face, you know, militant and radical things to say, like really, and to culturally kind of like expose your culture in that way, like that is powerful. You don't see women do the same things. I haven't seen it anywhere else happening like that. So I'm really like just I'm into it. Let's just say I'm excited. So if any women who are in South Korea are watching and want to hear about what we're doing in the US, I'm one of the few visible US based feminists online, I will say. I'm not the only one, but I do think that our movement is really small. Women have been meeting privately a lot over the decades since the feminist movement really dissipated in the 80s. There are women who have been doing work in different veins, but for the most part, it's been pretty slow. Some women are involved, who are radical feminists, are involved in organizing self-defense, so teaching women how to fight back if they are attacked by a man. That's important. I think that's something that is critical to our movement. That I think that's some really important work happening. Midwives are speaking out specifically against transgenderism within the midwife community and how it's taking over the language, how the language of womanhood is not allowed to be used when talking about giving birth and maternal complications and just physical things to deal with women's anatomy. There's been a lot of resistance going on regarding that in like the work that midwives are doing, radical feminist midwives. Of course, the anti-porn movement, there's been a lot of work in the US currently to try and get pornography labeled a health crisis, a public health crisis, so that we can get information out, via the government about the harms of pornography use. So that's something that feminists are organizing. Feminists are also organizing like consciousness raising groups in the US. So women sitting around talking about their experiences, trying to develop themselves politically from that. Something I organize is like a reading group. So I get women to read radical feminist literature or just feminist literature and talk about it. Some women are working on archiving materials, so like saving stuff from the past, because obviously so much information in history has been lost. A lot of what we're doing is piecing together what we've lost from the past and trying to get relationships with women who were part of the women's movement historically, because a lot of them are still alive. So archiving and history work is done right now by some radical feminists. And just women's history in general is something that is being focused on. There are women who are organizing goddess like temples and female-centered spirituality. So resisting Christianity, resisting patriarchal religion, not worshiping male gods. That's a big thing not even worshiping gods, but like developing like magically and in terms of honoring the goddess concept. That's something that's happening with women in the US. Some of us make YouTube videos, like Leah and myself in Portland are doing it, but there's other women. MD is one, like Fire Windrix, Sari's Revenge. In terms of the US, I'm naming off some US based women there. Yeah. What else is going on here? Oh, I mean, the other big thing that's been happening, I would say, is that a lot of lesbians are working towards the get the L out kind of campaign, if you will. A lot of us have been working in that vein to try and get lesbians, to be critical of the LGBT concept and that movement, and to work solely for lesbian issues and needs. Some are even setting up lesbian only organizations. Um, a lot of information is getting out right now. A big thing that's happening is I've seen a lot of lesbians radicalizing in the past year or so, since the kind of transgender movement has really gone a bit too far in terms of pushing a narrative about sexual orientation that's false. So lesbians are responding to that really with a lot of fury, because the big thing that's happening is they're trying to basically, in order to get their own rights, they are basically saying we need to do away with women's rights, and specifically the rights of homosexuals, specifically lesbians, these are things that are based on sex, not gender identity. So a lot of response to that. And in my own life, I am trying to just develop relationships with lesbians in my local community, getting some sense that like we're out there, those of us who feel alienated from the mainstream kind of culture can talk to one another and like be there for one another. That's big, that's happening now. But yeah, in terms of like mass activism and movement, I don't know about a lot happening, I have to say, within the US. And if anyone knows of anything that I've left out, please talk about it in the low bar. I'd love to know what you're doing in your communities. I know that some women are creating like publications and that sort of thing. That's cool. I definitely am not an expert on everything happening, but I do think that one of the things that American feminists could really learn is militancy and solidarity from their South Korean radical feminists. They're just doing an incredible job, and their like international perspective is awesome. So yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to talk about with the Escape the Corset, South Korean feminist movement, women's movement. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to get some more of my like material actually translated so that women can enjoy it, and that the ideas will spread, because obviously these ideas, I may put them out there, but they're ideas that come from the women's movement. They come from feminism. So like it's important to remember that, like I want them to get out and have a life of their own. And I'm glad that they seem to, they really do seem to. So yeah, I guess what I'll say as well is like, your work will spread. No, it doesn't, what you're doing, like there are ripples that happen. Like if I've been making videos for all these years, like I think a lot of things wouldn't have happened that did, that are outside of myself, consciousness being raised, women having like awakenings, like these things matter. And you can see like, how reality shifts when you start working towards what you want, and how much what you seek is trying to seek you, you know, especially with the women's movement happening. Like keep keep putting your energy to it. It will continue to grow. But that's what we're required. What's required of us now is to continue to put our energy. So, yeah, I'm going to post a link in the low bar to one of the channels who's translating my material. It's called Cora Rad Femme. And um, she's also translated, or the channel, I should say, has translated the work of, because it's multiple women working on this project, which is another awesome thing. Like this channel is just me, right? And occasionally I'll have a guest on, but like it's just me for the most part doing all the work. So to see like women working together on a channel project is really awesome, especially as like an activist tool. Um, yeah, there's some really interesting videos that they have and that you can watch with English subtitles to understand what they're talking about. It's very interesting. There's other like channels as well that I found just through watching these videos where they've also been like translated into English. So like I've been really excited to, you know, explore all of that. I've been doing that recently. So yeah, be sure to like subscribe to the channel in the low bar. And just, you know, tell me about activism happening in the US in the low bar or in the comment section. If you know of any that I'm not mentioning or something that might be, you know, where movement is happening, because I think the thing that's lacking here is movement, but I definitely feel really inspired to keep working just from what I've witnessed. Over the past month or so doing this research, like I've been profoundly inspired and moved. So yeah, stay active. All right, peace out. Till next time. Bye.